Caitlin has a cool question about if you have a room that is shielded with the T98 shielding paint, what if you want to make a phone call, as in on a cell phone? She's heard that you can go to the window to make a call. So what's the story with all this? All right, so yeah, would your body absorb more radiation and so on?
Welcome to the GeoVital Academy. I'm excited that you're here. This morning we'll get stuck into measuring instrumentation and, let's say, the theory of doing a home assessment. This is Patrick Vandenberg, your global radiation specialist.
Yes, there's going to be a little bit of radiation bouncing around when you make a call in a shielded environment. Same thing if you make a phone call in a car, which is essentially a shielded environment, just with windows in it with no shielding. If you're standing in a metal garage, same thing, it's going to bounce around. All locations where you might never have thought about that happening. But yeah, you would get a similar scenario if you were in a shielded room. Now, to clear one thing up, a lot of people think that this bouncing around, this is like, laser going through like a mirrored room, one laser and beams everywhere, the whole place lit up. It's not really like that. It's a little bit more like a billiard ball on a table, right? You give it a good whack, hits one wall. I don't know what it's called on a billiard table, right? Hits one wall, bounces to the next one, bounces to the next one. But really, by the time it's been on 3 walls, it's not really traveling the same speed anymore, is it? It's sort of ding, 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 sort of slows down. So same thing with shielding and radio frequency radiation. It sort of loses a bit of momentum every time it bounces around. Now, with T98 shielding paint, there's actually a 15% absorption. So if you have, let's say this is the paint enlarged, right? And so you've got radio frequency radiation hurtling at it. A little bit always comes through, right? Shielding is never 100%. Most of it gets deflected, and about 15% goes internal in the paint until it's exhausted. So that's awesome, as in the more absorption it can have, fantastic, great. All right, so if you made a call inside a shielded environment, of course, you're going to have some bouncing around, but maybe not as bad as you might imagine. Now, just to clarify, of course, if you've gone through the trouble of shielding a room because you want to have a good night's sleep away from radio frequency radiation, it wouldn't make an awful lot of sense to then go and make your calls inside a shielded room, right? But again, it's nighttime exposure. So let's say if we shielded a whole house, would you go outside to take a call? Probably not. So it's nighttime, again, that matters most. Now, when we have a shielded environment, 2 things can happen with the phone. It could be that it's not able to maintain a signal, as in you cannot make a call. Then if you go to the window, you take the shielding Nova fabric, put it aside, that lets typically enough signal in for you to make a call. Now, your phone has got more material, or it's harder for this phone to get its signal out, so it will typically work harder and get a stronger signal out. So yeah, again, very important that you don't stick this thing on your head, as always. Yeah, so sometimes with shielding, the phones don't work, which is great, awesome, right? I mean, that's as good as you can get. But sometimes phones still work. That doesn't mean the shielding is not good enough. Cell phones will work at a very small signal strength. And actually, we did a house we were involved with in New Zealand that we were shielding, and this project was being recorded for television for the show Grand Designs that originated in the BBC in England, but there's a New Zealand version of that as well. And our consultant, Steve Hewitt, he went on site to take some measurements on the body to see what the exposure was when they started building. And then, of course, the cool thing would be at the end to come back when the house is finished and show that again. And so the producers rang up and say, "Okay, we're going back to the house on Wednesday. Can Steve come and be there for the after shots?" And so, well, Wednesday already. He was actually in Melbourne doing additional training. And so, he's not available. Okay, no problem. We'll fetch and we will craft an end to it. No problem. And so anyway, on the show, they said, "Well, have you tried it?" Right? And they assumed that the phone shouldn't work in a shielded environment. So they made a call and did connect. And so the punchline was going to be, well, you've bought you might have bought a Lamborghini, but this one is a melon, right? Television is about controversy, right? You want people to talk about things. So the client, rang us and said, "Well, we are happy as Larry in this house. We've never, felt this good in any place we've ever lived. We love the house, but it was a little bit disappointing, to have this recording and to work out that the phones actually still worked." And so then we had to explain, well, hang on, shielding is never 100%. Sometimes just enough comes in to maintain a signal, and the phone can do the very low signal strength. So I contacted the producers and sort of tried to explain to them that, well, you're making an assumption and you're sort of making a fool out of yourself and us in the process. So really, we need to get Steve on site and show what that body level is actually doing. And so they had never reshot an ending to an episode, but they sent out the camera crew again. Steve was there then, and so they that bit went in. They left the bit about the phones in it because controversy, right? But then showed Steve came in and the levels were very, very low. So yeah, cool. So yeah, with cell phone use, you want to not try and do that in a shielded environment. If you have to make a call there, I wouldn't stress about it too much. Just put it on speakerphone. Stand in the window if you want. Put it on the windowsill, right? So it's almost outside the shielding. And so you do what you can to reduce it, but you should be aware of the fact that it does produce a little bit of bouncing around. So it would be better to make a call outside that space. All right. Thank you, Caitlin. Hope this helps.